What is going on, guys? It's your boy Rebirth here, bringing you quite the interesting video. So if you remember back to when the Howl from the Jaws of Hell arc initially started and we got that first chapter, No Breath from Hell, one of the first things we noticed was that Ichigo was lacking his dual wield blades. And the question in the community, we were like, where is the dual wield? He just has the old Zangetsu / new Zangetsu Bankai. I was so confused. It's like, where is it? And at the time I did make a video on it. You can check it up here, because I do think there's truth to what I assumed back then and what we have learned now. Because in Club Outside, a person finally asked Ichigo one of the best questions we've had on the platform so far about the nature of Ichigo's Bankai. Well, I guess kind of his Bankai, but the nature of Ichigo's sword. What is going on with his swords? We finally got information on it, and I want to cover it here. So, before I begin, I do want to preface this by saying that I don't speak Japanese, and so I have two translations for what Kubo's answer was, but I don't speak Japanese, so you do have to take everything presented here with a grain of salt. I know I am. So with that out of the way, let's look at what the question was. So here's the question. Did Zangetsu finally return to one sword? Ichigo, 10 years later, implemented in the social game Brave Souls, was waving Zangetsu that appeared from the broken heavenly chain Zangetsu in the final stage of the Millennium Blood Battle. Zangetsu, which was rebuilt by the two swords of the Hollow and the Quincy, became one as a heavenly chain Zangetsu by the Swatsuka. I don't know why it's using that word, but okay. So I was wondering if I could return to the two swords if I solved the Swatsuka. I'm like, bro, is there not a better word that we could use? Dang. I don't even know if it's actually, I don't know if the Japanese translation is actually using that. But in any case. However, after the Swatsuka, Zangetsu did not return to the two swords because Yuha robbed him of the power of the emptiness and the Quincy. I think emptiness is supposed to be hollow, and the Swatsuka was hurt. Are you talking about the sword? Anyway, or can Ichigo make two or one sword if he wishes? It may just be a game original production, but I'm curious. And this is Ichigo, well, this is Kubo's first answer, the first translation of Kubo's answer. So here, Kubo says, I will answer this because I have not described it in detail and I do not intend to describe it anymore. The two swords of Zangetsu are sword and scabbard. The correct shape for the Zanpakuto is that it has a scabbard, and the one without a scabbard has only two swings, the scabbard and the Zangetsu. The two sword state is the one in which the Zangetsu is corrected to the correct shape, and the true Zangetsu appears when the scabbard is Swatsuka and the scabbard is crushed. What the heck? Go away. The crushed scabbard was absorbed by Ichigo, so if you want to do it, you can do it with two swords, but it depends on Ichigo. Let's look at the second translation. So here we have the second translation, which says, I haven't described it in detail and I don't intend to do it further, so I'll answer. The two Zangetsu swords are a sword and a scabbard. The correct form of a Zanpakuto is one with a scabbard, and there are only two without a scabbard, the scabbard and the Zangetsu. That line is so weird. When the Zangetsu was repaired to its correct form, it was in its two sword state, and when it was sheathed back into Bankai, the scabbard was broken and the real Zangetsu appeared. The broken scabbard was absorbed by Ichigo, so it could be turned into two swords if he wanted to, but that is up to Ichigo. There are a few things that we can learn about the Bleach power system from here. The first is that the true nature of the correct form of a Zanpakuto is one that has both a sword and a sheath. Scabbard is synonymous with sheath, is another word for sheath. So, in essence, when you think about characters like Ikkaku, who's unable to actually activate his Shikai without his sheath and his sword, sticking them together to form Hozokimaru, in essence, Kubo is telling us that the sheaths of Zanpakutos are actually essential in whatever power system that it has. So that's important to keep in mind, because it would appear that even though Ichigo doesn't have a sheath, like if you think Shinsui, if you think Yamamoto, if you think Jushiro, or like the standard Soul Reapers, they have sheath. The sword goes into a sheath. And so even though he doesn't necessarily have a sheath to go with his sword, I think what Kubo's trying to say here is that the two different blades are acting as a sword and a sheath. I think that's what he's trying to say. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, but that's what I think. The two Zangetsu swords act as a sword and a sheath. And if you remember, once he was fighting Yuha Bak and he was exposing the hollow sword to Quincy Ryatsu, it started to have the blue vein, drawing on it, and then it turned into white. And then in order to go Bankai, he takes the white sword and the smaller black sword, sticks them together, and the white sword becomes a scabbard. It becomes a sheath. It encompasses the black one. It covers it. And so what I'm getting from here is that when the white was, when Ichigo's power was absorbed by Yuha and the white faded, the sheath is basically revealed and the sword is only left. That's what I'm trying to understand from this. So let me see. When Zangetsu was repaired to its correct form, it was in its two-sword state, the dual wield. And when it was sheathed back into Bankai, it's actually interesting that we have that wording now, in that his Bankai has him sheathing his sword. The two become the one. So it's almost like if you wanted to think, why are my swords all the way over there? I need you. If only I had Spider-Man powers, I could just... Yeah, do I get up? It's cool. You guys have seen the sword. If I have a sword and if I have a sword and I unsheath it, it's almost like his Bankai has him putting his sword back into its sheath. It's very strange to think about. Like, Kubo definitely needs to explain this further. Like, you can't get away with, like, you need to explain it further, dude. But in any case, and when it was sheathed back into Bankai, the scabbard was broken by Yuha, and the real Zangetsu appeared. The broken scabbard was absorbed by Ichigo, so it could be turned into two swords if you wanted to. So this is, it's definitely not a simple, this is not a simple breakdown. It's definitely complicated. There are a lot of layers to it, because the more I think about it, if you think back to the battle between Ichigo and Yuha, the one thing that happened was that, so Ichigo goes into Horn of Salvation, his sword turns white. It covers the black one, he goes into Bankai, Yuha cuts it off, Yuha leaves, Tsukishima comes in and repairs Ichigo's sword. But before Yuha left, Yuha absorbed Ichigo's Quincy powers, which was mixed with his hollow powers. And so basically the white part, the scabbard part, was absorbed by Yuha. And so even though Tsukishima, and this is why I would want you to watch my video before, because I explained it then, even though Tsukishima and Orihime restored his sword, they repaired his Bankai, they did not repair what Yuha had stolen from Ichigo, because Yuha took the Quincy and the hollow powers. And it might be weird to think about, because it's like, why is Yuha stealing hollow powers? He's stealing his hollow powers because in order to activate his hollow, Ichigo had to expose white to Quincy Ryatsu. And on the blade itself, you could see the blue vein markings on the blade, and it essentially turned white. So even Ichigo in the chapter went out of his way to actually say that the hollow Ryatsu, with the Quincy Ryatsu, which was mixed with his hollow Ryatsu, are both fading. And so in essence, I tend to believe that maybe, and this is just speculative at this point, maybe when Ichigo's sword is actually repaired by Tsukishima and Orihime, him losing his Quincy and hollow powers because Yuha stole it was still 100% in effect. And so when he went to fight Yuha and took his swing with his Zangetsu, because there was no spiritual backing on the sheath part of his sword, it just shattered and revealed what was underneath. It was almost like in that moment, his sword was unsheathed, revealing what was underneath. The point here is that that white part was absorbed by Ichigo. And so he could, in theory, still do it if he wanted to. I hope he does, but we will have to wait and see. There is one question I have about all of this though, because like this is Ichigo now. He now has the Zangetsu, what we would consider Zangetsu of the past. Here's a question. Here is a question. Are we to consider Ichigo to be in Bankai form always now? I think that's a legitimate question, because this is how he was before. Two swords, all right? So you stick the swords together and you get your Bankai form, whatever, cool, all right? But then it breaks, revealing what's underneath. Are you technically still considered to be in Bankai? Or is the fact that he didn't have all his powers available to him at the time mean that Ichigo wasn't actually in Bankai? I'm not sure. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It gets really confusing, Kubo. Like, this really, really gets confusing. I'm thinking about it. And if his dual, if new Bleach, I mean, so new Ichigo, his dual wield was his Shikai. He has two swords, Hollow and Quincy, or Arrancar and Quincy. That's his Shikai. To enter Bankai, he puts them together. So he put them together, and his Bankai is one sword. All right, it's one sword with the scabbard and the sheath. Now, due to reasons in the story or blah blah blah, the white broke off and got absorbed by Ichigo, revealing the Zangetsu. So now that we see Ichigo wielding Zangetsu, is he in Bankai? Is he always in Bankai form? Just a weakened version because it lacks the white part? Or is this, like, I have no idea, Kubo. Like, Kubo gave us answers, but it just breeded new questions. I'm like, I have no idea. So, this is progress. This is progress in the sense that we now know more than we did before, but we still need more answers moving forward. So, let me know what you guys think about this. It's very, in a way, well, let me put it this way. This is what we've learned. At least this is what I think I can take away from this. Whatever the functioning sheath or scabbard of a Zanpakuto is actually important to its power. For somebody like, at least we have two examples. Ikkaku cannot activate Shikai without both his sheath and his sword. Puts them together to enter Hozokimaru. So it's like the sheaths of Zanpakutos are important, but sheaths are not limited to the actual bona fide sheath that we see. You can have other things that act as sheaths, as is the case with Ichigo, where the white part of his sword is acting as the sheath/scabbard to the sword part of his form, which is the one that was underneath. So this is this is very, it's crazy. It really is. There's so much more questions that are at stake, as in what actually happened when Ichigo had his power absorbed by Yuha. When Orihime and Tsukishima restored his powers, did that bring him his power back, or was the power that Yuha stole still gone? That's one question. And so when he went into battle against Yuha with his restored Bankai, is that representative? Is that indicative of Ichigo's true Bankai? Would that be considered Ichigo's true Bankai, even though Yuha had absorbed his powers? I don't know. And when his the white part was actually broken and absorbed by him, do we consider this new Ichigo, as we see at the end of the arc and in the new Bleach chapters, do we consider that to be him in Shikai or in Bankai? And if he is in Bankai, is he constantly in Bankai? Because that's a new thing, a Soul Reaper who is always in active Bankai state. Or is this the third scenario where Ichigo is in, this is crazy, like Kubo, this is crazy. Is this the third scenario where Ichigo is in Bankai? Well, he's in Shikai state, okay? He's in Shikai state, but he has two options. I can either be in Shikai state with two swords or in Shikai state with one sword. But then to go Bankai, what would you do? Would you just like power up a step further and just be like, okay, I want to go Bankai, and just like power up further, but your sword is still the same? Like, Kubo. Because please, I don't know about you guys, but on a personal level, I don't like Ichigo's standard Shikai like we see here, like the normal one. This is a legendary form. This is iconic. All right, in the world of Bleach, this is iconic, but I don't want this to be the case, and I'll tell you why. Ichigo has better looking forms. It's fine. This is fine. This is not Ichigo's best looking form. It's just not. All right. This looks, to me, in my opinion, this is a better form. It looks better. Having two swords, it looks better. Having this, you know, the sword in itself looks better. And so if Kubo is going this route, where Ichigo's Bankai looks like his old Shikai, and his new Shikai still looks like his old Shikai, I feel like you're robbing us of Ichigo's best forms. The Bankai, whether it be with a cloak, the Bankai, whether it be with the sword and the chain and all that stuff. So at this point, I have no idea. The only thing, and I'll put it this way, the only thing that I just realized is that his Bankai has a chain, his Shikai has a cloth. So that could be the indication that we could use to know whether he's in Bankai or Shikai. Because right now, and actually, you know what? I actually think that's it. I actually think that's probably the big difference. In Bankai form, he has a chain. Alright, in Bankai form, he has a chain. In Shikai form, he has the cloth. So I think, so that's one question answered. Ichigo in this form is 100% in Shikai state because he's using the cloth Zangetsu. So as to whether or not his Bankai's only difference would be a cloth to chain is yet to be seen. We'll have to wait to see if that's the only difference. But I hope it's not, because because Bleach Ichigo has better forms. Alright, I like the idea of him having a Bankai which sword is different, like vastly different. Okay, I wasn't satisfied with this because it looked too similar to, like, the only thing that changed was his sword. Like, you know what, it's cool. We'll have to wait and see what Kubo says in the future, because Kubo, like, we need answers. We need a lot of answers. Okay, so shout out to the person who decided to ask Kubo this question. You're a great person for doing what you did. Thank you so much. Kubo answered some questions, but it also breeded some new, he answered some questions, but it also breeded new questions that we need to be answered. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, please, as of right now, how many subscribers do we have right now? We are really close. We are currently sitting at 9,989 subscribers. 11 subscribers to 10,000. 11 subscribers to 10,000. Please, if you're enjoying this, if you're enjoying the content, if you enjoy what I do here, if you enjoyed the White Ichigo video or any other video that you guys have watched, please hit the subscribe button. Alright? Get your boy to 10K. We need it. We need it. Alright? So, again, I'll see you guys in the next Rebirth video. It's your boy, signing off. Peace.